My entire life, I've considered myself to be a Nintendo kid. Sure, I had an Atari 2600 when I was younger, but it never spoke to me. It never really captured my imagination the way the little gray box behind me is playing. Well, this is actually the Model 2 little gray box, the NES top loader. The Atari 2600 never had games for me like Super Mario Brothers, Excitebike, The Legend of Zelda, Darkwing Duck. There was never anything on that system, on the Atari 2600, like the NES. And then later on the Super NES as well, where you had Super Mario World, you had Pilot Wings, my boy Earthworm Jim on the Super NES. Hey everyone, Gary here with Rock Solid Productions. Thanks for stopping by. We've got something really cool to show you. Now, one of the things with early video game systems, and we're talking pretty much everything before the GameCube, you had wired controllers. There were some third-party, wireless controllers from Acclaim, for example, for the NES. They didn't work very well. Now, thankfully, we have a lot of different options for third-party controllers for the Super NES and for the NES. But what if you wanted to use, say, an Xbox controller, or a PlayStation controller, or other Bluetooth-enabled devices? Well, that is where the Wingman converter for the Super NES and NES comes into play from Brook Gaming. And I do want to take a second and thank them for sending us this to check out. I really do appreciate their team looping us in with everything involved with this. And they have sent us this for the purposes of review. And what the Wingman converter SNES allows us to do, or promises to allow us to do, is use those new modern type controllers on an NES, on a Super NES. So what we're going to do, we're going to unbox it, we're going to see how it comes out of the box, and then we're going to go ahead and try a number of different Bluetooth controllers with it on the NES and the Super Nintendo. We are also going to try it with the Super Famicom because it is the same style connector as on the Super NES, and I actually have an adapter that allow us to test this on a Famicom disk system. So let's go ahead, let's hit the bench, and let's go ahead and see how this comes out of the box. So here we have the Wingman Converter SNES on the bench, and as you can see, it is plug and play, supports over 125 controllers. That's pretty impressive. Turbo and remap, stable and low latency, and then it will work with the Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox Elite 1 and 2, PS3, PS4, PS5, and the Switch Pro controller. We are going to try some additional controllers too. Here you can see on the side again, same basic thing. Same thing on that side. On the back has your basic different configurations, includes the Wingman SNES, and then does have your product info QR code. So let's go ahead, let's open this up. Now I do want to thank Ian and the crew over at Brook Gaming for sending us one of these to check out. I really do appreciate them continuing to support the channel. Good friends and partners of the channel here. I do like the fact that it is that like Nintendo gray controller color, so that's neat. And then you've got a couple different pigtails in here, some Brook Gaming decals with the chameleon. So you have your Super NES and your NES controller ports right here. They look spot on, exactly as they should. Obviously this will also work with the Super Famicom. This will not work with a Famicom, but we do have an adapter that I built. I will have linked for you right up in the upper right hand corner that I'm going to test that out with. And then this looks like the USB cable to be doing any sort of like firmware updates. So plug that in. Oh, it was upside down. There we go. Plug the other end into your PC, and you can either do firmware updates or you can actually use this with a with your PC if you so like. So we're going to go ahead. We are going to connect this first to our NES. We're going to do some testing. Let's get started. Pairing to my PS4 controller, pretty stinking easy, and the options button is start, share is select. So let's go ahead, see how Super Mario Brothers plays. Now, this is actually my Famicom version. D-pad's working just fine. Button presses are working great. This is so weird playing Super Mario Brothers with the PlayStation controller. Cross and square are A and B. And circle and triangle don't do anything. So that's actually quite interesting. The analog sticks work. Okay, I wasn't actually expecting that. Not the way that I would play this, but the fact that you can is pretty impressive. Button responses seem pretty good. I mean, I'm able to make these moves and everything, no problem whatsoever. Okay, so this is working wonderfully. Now one of the things I want to do, I'm actually going to try a Punch-Out because I want to test out like lag, latency, things along those lines, because I can see that's as something that people would be concerned about. I'm concerned about with. Let's go ahead and check out Punch-Out. We've switched games, we've also switched controllers, and one of them I know people were going to ask about, the 8BitDo SN30 Pro. I have had this for 4 or 5 years now. I rarely use it anymore. It's just one of those things, there's better companies out there to support. I don't like the fact that anytime I've reached out to them for questions and whatnot, they've never answered me. Not via email, not via social, nothing. But since I know a lot of people have the 8BitDo Bluetooth controllers, I figured let's go ahead and give it a shot here. Now, we are playing, I didn't mention this, I may have mentioned this earlier, this is on my HDMI modded NES top loader. So let's see how the D-pad and the analog sticks and everything feel. I can see this actually being a decent way to play for the Super NES and Super Famicom coming up. The main thing here I want to check, lag, latency, delay, so on and so forth. Now granted, it's Glass Joe, so it's not going to be terrible, or challenging I guess is more. Yeah, press a button and it reacts. I mean, exactly as I would expect. I was able to time Glass Joe there, no problem whatsoever. Yeah, overall I've got to say, I mean, this is working exactly as I would expect it, quite honestly. I'm not feeling any lag or delay or anything like that. Whatever protocol, Bluetooth-wise, that they've used from Brook, it's working terrifically. Glass Joe, kind of a pushover. We are going to try the next round just to kind of see if that's, you know, performance-wise how that works. Now, to pair this to the Brook adapter, basically what you have to do is, unlike the PS4 controller, where I was able to basically just connect the USB and have it connect, I had to basically go into pairing mode on both the controller and on the Wingman as well. And it was a pretty simple process. We were kicking Von Kaiser's rear end right there. So basically to put the SN30 Pro into pairing, hold the start button, you'll see the lights go back and forth for a moment, and then there's a pairing key on the top. Oh, I screwed that one up. There's a pairing key on the top by my left index finger, and basically you hit that, it puts the controller in pairing mode, pairs just fine. Now, some Xbox controllers may not work with this, specifically ones that aren't Bluetooth. Some of the early ones, and I've had issues with some of, oh, we hit each other. Some of the other Wingmans, I think it was the one for the Dreamcast that I found out that my Xbox controller that I have that was from the Call of Duty system from the Xbox One doesn't work with Bluetooth. So far so good. Let's go ahead and let's switch up to our Sharp Famicom Twin. So up next is Miracle Bootcamp. I know I always misspeak how you say the name of this game. It is a Famicom Disk System game, and I know what you're saying, that you don't have a controller port on a Famicom Disk System or on the Sharp Famicom Twin. How am I playing this? Well, make sure you check out, I've got a video where I actually went ahead and made an adapter that allows me to use NES controllers on my Famicom Disk System, or on my Sharp Famicom Twin, as it were. And that's basically how I have this playing through here right now, where one of the things that was a bit interesting was I could not use the onboard or the start button on here, I actually had to use the controller, my player 1 on my Sharp Famicom Twin, to actually go ahead and start the game. But I was able to play it. And I mean, it's working exactly as I would have expected it to. No. And I will tell you, the analog stick does work on here just fine. So something to keep in mind is that you can use the analog sticks. You don't have to just use the D-pads. Got him! So this is honestly one of my favorite Famicom Disk System games. It's stupid silly, and it's really fun, and it's a good platformer from Konami. And if you know Konami back in this era, I mean, they were just cranking out hit after hit. So this works great. I'm glad to see that it does work with my little mod that I have as I just died. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch on over to the Super Nintendo. When it comes to testing out lag and latency and delay, fighting games, Street Fighter, one of the best tests you can have. We've got the original Street Fighter here for the Super NES, locked and loaded. I am back with the 8BitDo gamepad. Now, one thing I did try to do is I did try to hook up my Xbox Series S Blue Shock controller that I have. There's a firmware update that I don't have in the Brook adapter yet that should go ahead and make that work. I could get it to work wired but not wirelessly. Same thing goes for my KMD Pro controller for the Nintendo Switch and for the PS4, PS5 Joy SkyPower controller that I recently featured. So wired, they all work. Wirelessly, not so much. I'm sure that firmware update will take care of a lot of that. But let's go ahead and dive into Street Fighter 2, the new challengers. And we'll dive in, and we're going to use Ryu because that's who we use. We'll use both the D-pad and the analog stick. Got him there. Now this could be more the controller than anything else. I am not digging the way that the analog or the D-pad is feeling for the various moves. Got them there. Once I switch to the analog stick, they're much, much better. I like that a lot better. But I'm one of the strange people that I actually prefer the analog stick for fighting games. I don't know if it's because it reminds me of a joystick or what, but I do actually prefer that for fighting games. Oof. Now, one other thing too is I have not remapped my controls. Got him! Definitely, again, I think this is more the controller than anything else. You know, definitely digging the analog stick more than the D-pad. Worked wonderfully there for Street Fighter. Let's go ahead. We are now going to change over to the Super Famicom. We're going to put our feet up on this one here because this one, specifically for Jay from Square Pegs, Yoshi's Island. Love this game. He hates the Yoshi's games because he doesn't like things that are joyous and fun and colorful, and you know, he's just, you know, people think I'm a hater. Nah, that's Jay. In all seriousness, check out his channel. He's got great stuff over there. Let's go ahead and dive into this. And again, we're using the 8BitDo controller. Yeah, once again, I mean, this is playing exactly like I would have expected it to. Yes! Whoa! Now, I have never gotten this far in this game. I mean, I've had this for a few years now, and it's just not something that I've ever really played a ton of. Beautiful game. I love the artwork. I wish I wouldn't have missed out on it back when I was younger, thinking that it was a baby's game or something for kiddies. No! Now, okay, fine. I will grant you that crying Yoshi or crying Mario is annoying. Yeah, I mean, I'm having no complaints whatsoever with the way that this is playing and controlling. And overall, I mean, this is really, really good. I'm not feeling anything that I would complain about as far as lag or delay or latency. All right, so let's talk about this here because, I mean, I'm liking the way that the gameplay is going. The performance is good. You know, it's press a button, it does what I need it to do. I mean, it's exactly what you would really want out of a controller. Now, what do I think of it conceptually? Does this, you know, is this a need that I had that I needed to have addressed? Not exactly. Whoop, uh-oh, Yoshi died. Part of the issue right now for where this fits in the market is there are many exceptional ways already to play the NES and Super NES wirelessly if you want to play even on original hardware. Granted, there are emulators and whatnot that can use wireless controllers. Grant you that. That's not who I see the target audience for this. This is someone who wants to play on original hardware. But is it something that at, you know, $30 to $40, does it solve a need that I had that other controllers weren't taking care of? Not really. I look at this as more for those who would want to use their PlayStation or Xbox controller. Come on, you get up there. Yeah, we'll leave it there. You know, use their Xbox or their PlayStation controller while playing their NES, Super NES, Super Famicom, so on and so forth. What would really have made this something special is if it would have had an adapter built into it to be able to play on the Famicom or Famicom disk system, you know. I'm lucky that I have the adapter that I was able to make that basically solved that problem for me. But I know not everybody has that or has access to it. So as such, you know, that's something that they could have added to this that really would have added something special, I think. I'm, you know, very happy with the overall control responsiveness. Press a button, it does what it should do. You know, and Brook makes great products. I love their switch docks. I love their other Wingman adapters that they have. You know, and for me too, like the one for the Saturn and for the Dreamcast. I notoriously hate the Dreamcast controller. So for me, having that option, it's terrific. I love having that. I love the Super NES controller. I love the Super Famicom controller. I love the NES controller. So this wasn't, necessarily a need that I had that I needed a solution to. But overall, it works well. It does work with the 8-bit DOE controllers. It works with a variety of different controllers. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. So there's my look at the Brook Gaming Wingman Converter SNES. What do I think of it? I mean, like I mentioned, it doesn't serve a need for me, but for you it might. There are a lot of different wireless options already out there for the Super NES, Super Famicom, and the NES. If they would have added on Famicom compatibility onto this, that would have been outstanding and really set this apart. The fact that it already does Super NES and NES 2-in-1, that is nice. So that is an extra value that's added there. The issue for me is I don't want to play my Super Nintendo or my Nintendo with my PlayStation or my Xbox controller. I want to use an NES style controller or a Super NES style controller, if that makes sense. And I think that's really why I kept going back and using the 8-bit DOE controller for this, because it's Bluetooth and it does give me that Super NES feel as I am playing. That being said, good responsiveness, good button presses and everything. The one thing that I wasn't thrilled with was the D-pad in Street Fighter, but again, I think that's more this controller than this adapter. But let me know down in the comments, is this something that you would consider picking up? Have you picked up? Is this something you had heard of before? Again, let me know down in the comments. We will also have a link in a pinned comment down below to where you can pick one of these up if you do want to go ahead and do so. Now, if you do have any other questions or comments, as always, feel free to leave them down below. You can also go ahead and email me at rocksolidmail@gmail.com. Send me a message on Twitter at RockSolidStudios. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/RockSolidProductions, Instagram at instagram.com/RockSolidProductionsGK, and of course our new 3D printed store on screen right now, where everything that we do go ahead and generate through that site gets invested right back here on the channel too. And you know, we've got some sales that we are working on coming up with in January and February of 2022. Now, if you are looking on for other videos covering like how we picked up our Super Famicom Junior, how we went ahead and RGB modded both our Super NES and Super Famicom Junior, and how we HDMI modded our NES top loader. Those videos are coming up for you right now. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like to support the future of Rock Solid Productions, you can do so by visiting our Patreon page at patreon.com/rocksolid. For as little as $1 a month, $12 a year, you'll get early access to all of our video content, exclusive content, and a whole lot more. You can also become a channel member here on YouTube for as little as $1.99 a month, and with that, you get a badge next to your name when you comment or post on the channel, and you are acknowledged whether you are a channel member or a Patreon supporter at the end of each and every one of our videos. You can also support the channel by visiting our Teespring store on screen now, where we have t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, masks, cell phone cases, and much more. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.